March 4th. It's been raining. Water everywhere as usual. I will more than likely still be planting my garden today. Oh, radishes and lettuce. Radishes are doing quite well. I've pulled many. Lettuce does not do so good with your radishes and makes it difficult to get the weeds out. Wouldn't suggest the two together. Still pulling weeds. Rhubarb is looking very nice this year. Still a great deal of rabbit wire to install to keep my rabbits out. Water everywhere. I do have fence replaced. Black raspberries are tied to the fence now, waiting for a few berries to eat. Tomatoes are going in. The jugs are mini greenhouses over each tomato. A way to recycle. Took those jugs off the other day. The tomatoes are as high as the jugs, 7 or 8 inches out of the ground. This wire has hooks on the end. One down, one up. And as you can see, they hook the other side to hold it. Once I put the posts in, this will be for the tomatoes to grow through. I have started installing some new posts for irrigation for this side and more trellises. This was last year's tomato patch. I've started removing the wires and placing them over where the other tomatoes are at. I still have to do the top and remove a few more posts. They, of course, are just sitting on the surface of the ground, so they do lean once all the wires being removed. They are quite sturdy, they seem to be, when fully assembled. Green onions, some of them's trying to go to seed. Peas have been transplanted out a few weeks ago. They're doing quite well. For all the rain we're getting anyway. Pole beans, something's been eating a little bit on some. But hopefully they'll come out of it. The eggplants are all planted. Again, this will be held up high so that they can grow up, and once they get to a certain height, the wind cannot blow them over. My helper for the day. Get out of there. There you go. Volunteer strawberry, wild strawberry, doing quite nice. I'll be eating some of them soon. I've got my pineapples out in the garden. Potatoes. Planted them a little later than I wanted to, but they are coming up quite nicely. Jugs that were on the cabbage, they'll be moved over for more tomatoes and bell peppers to warm them up. The cabbage, as you can see, is literally outgrown the jugs. Sorry about that. Volunteer potatoes. I didn't get All of them dug apparently last year. Again, more volunteer potatoes, bell peppers planted. And again, this wire will be raised so that the bell peppers will grow up through this. And then when the wind starts, summer storms start blowing, they will not be able to get blowed over. It tends to work quite well for me. Not a cheap way to do it, but I've tried strings around them and everything. When you're growing a large quantity, it's difficult to tie them all up. 2 garlic, onions growing all the way around. Some of the earliest onions I got out. Again, the wire, when they grow up through it, will hold them in place. Winds and animals won't be able to knock them over and break in the neck. Once the neck is broken, they can no longer grow and will have to be harvested. So that gives me much larger onions. Again, a few volunteer potatoes in the onions. This grapevine just died. No idea why. It was one of my oldest ones, 3 years I believe. That one is doing well, and several others. I'm hoping to get a few grapes this year. That's where they'll be forming. I'll have to do some pruning. There's a lot setting on for such a young plant, I believe. Still a walkway that hasn't got mulched yet. A corner that still needs some work. Oh, strawberries. I believe I'm going to be picking several strawberries this year. They are looking quite nice. All this water, they're absolutely loving it. My paths are not, but all my beds being raised are doing excellent. Lemon thyme, it's looking great. You'll notice the toadstools. That is basically a fungus breaking down my soil so that the plants can use the nutrients. They say that they will also kind of like hold hands underneath the soil, and the funguses can bring the nutrients directly to the plant's roots. It seems to be working somewhat well. Nice, rich soil. Some of the white is fungus. Some of it's fresh mulch. Several more cabbages. These are bell peppers as well. We'll be needing to mulch. A black raspberry that came up last year. We'll definitely need to be moving it soon. It will take over this whole area. Since this is less than 1 year's growth. Watermelon. I'm having a bad day. Tomatoes. This is where I moved some strawberries from, what I was going to say. This year, tomatoes on this side, some blood vein sorrel, some young ones coming up. The strawberries did not seem to want to do well here. green beans, pole beans last year must have shaded them too much, so I moved them. This side is potatoes, all white and red potatoes, Irish potatoes so far. Sweet potatoes, I've been holding off a little bit on those, trying to get other stuff planted. That will be carrots when they come up. I moved a box to keep the weeds down my path. I moved my tomato cages over this side. Difficult to see. There we go. This will be my cherry tomatoes. They were here last year. Now I moved over this way. This will be watermelons. Little spot I didn't mulch. I got the weeds laying over it. I'll lay some more mulch. Because so far the gardens seems to be coming along quite nicely. This strawberry bed, for some reason, does not want to grow. They are supposed to be everbearers. We'll just have to see how they do this year. There is some blooms on them. The rabbits ate a little early in the spring. I had to replant a lot of them that did not make it. This is where they were last year, and of course for some reason they are doing quite nice since I do not want them here. Even a small strawberry and some more green onions. Not sure if I'll take them out or leave them. As you can see, this is a tomato patch. It will be getting some more levels of wire going up, much like this one here. Wild strawberries, some young asparagus. Due to the water last year, it just seemed like they did not grow the greatest, but I have been harvesting quite a bit. I should have weighed it to see how much. Some grapevine starts. I done those off of cuttings. So far they seem to be rooting. And then of course cabbage plants to move, cabbage family plants, broccoli and everything, to move to the garden and to sell. And tomato plants. I had to remove a sunflower, and apparently a mole has gotten in here and done a little deep digging. This is the only stem of a goji berry that the rabbits did not devour in winter. I'm hoping it will produce a few goji berries. I was hoping for blooms before now, not sure when they produce. This is a new shoot coming up from when the rabbits ate it. Lost this grapevine as well on top. Do have new shoots coming up from the bottom to grow a new one and try it some more. Cuttings as well barely seem to be surviving, so the plant must have started dying in the winter for some reason. Some garlic. Wild onions or wild garlic. This is the tame. Apparently I did not get all of it dug last year. as you can tell by the multiple bulbs in one location. Another young grapevine. But somewhat decent amount of garlic for not planting any. This is a Concord grape. It will have to be pruned back. A lot of the grapes pruned off. It's producing way too many for as young as it is. This will be broccoli and such when I get it transplanted over. I've started putting tags out so I don't forget what I'm planting where, as well as both fences will have pole beans on them, as well as all the fencing going up towards the house will be all pole beans. So for the most part, that is how my garden looks now. Been starting to pull out a few of last year's okra plants. They pull up quite nicely, and we'll lay them in the path to keep the weeds down, as well as pulling and cutting out all the weeds on both sides. They came up right where the plants themselves came up at, rather than in the mulch. Very few have grown, but there was cabbage plants there, so I did get a few. A few more fencings to put up so I can plant some more. But all in all, I have been planting in the rain. I will try to keep some updates. Oh, let's see if we can swim over this way. We'll go around. If the spray does not knock them off, I have apricots growing on my tree. Now, of course, any type of spray, any type of chemical, all the apricots fall off the tree. So I've never had a fresh apricot, but they continue to produce. I'm trying to find some lower ones. Right here. Let's see. Quite difficult to make out. Let's see if I can put my finger behind it. It's a tiny apricot. I know there are several more starting to form. So hopefully, just maybe, I'll get a few apricots this year. Red raspberries, I still have not got them pruned, cleaned out, or all the stragglers moved. Kind of a reason for that. Gonna have to go downstream and work on my irrigation ditch down in the yard. Some more wild strawberries, as well as some young asparagus starting to come up.